Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thank you so much for joining us live here as we continue to keep you guys updated on what the latest is regarding the winter weather and the storm we're expecting this weekend. So in just a little bit, we're going to get an update from Georgia emergency management leaders about how they plan to manage the storm and the steps they're taking to keep people safe. In the meantime, I want to let you know what we are seeing with this. This is a graphic from our Jonathan Stacy. He is on a call right now with the National Weather Service. National Weather Service around 2:30. He's going to come and give us an update as to where we stand. In the meantime, though, this is the latest information that he has shared with us, so that way you know what to expect. This dangerous winter storm is expected to bring significant icing across parts of North Georgia and the Atlanta metro this weekend. What's new now, this ice storm warning is in effect from 1 Saturday until 10 Monday, and we expect total ice accumulations between 1/4 of an inch and 1 inch with wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour. This combination can really be dangerous, leading to power outages, downed trees, and extremely dangerous travel conditions. So you can see from your screen here the counties that this is going to affect. Metro Atlanta now under this ice warning. So this is absolutely something to keep an eye on and something to be mindful of to make sure that you do not travel during this time. So many counties now under this alert. I'm going to let you guys, if you want to see the full list, you can head to Fox Local here if you're streaming with us within our app. We have that full list, but again, keep in mind, travel strongly discouraged because of this storm. So Jonathan's going to join us live at 2:30 and make an update, give us an update as to where we stand. I'm just looking through some notes here to make sure that you guys are up to date and we know what the latest is. In the meantime, let's move on now, because Georgia Emergency Management Agency leaders just gave us an update as to where things stand. And our Kevin Stewart was at that update with leaders, and he joins us now live. So Kevin, thanks so much for being here. What were they having to say this afternoon? It looks like Kevin just went out. We're going to see if we can get Kevin back in just a little bit. He was standing by, but Kevin was in that meeting with Georgia Emergency Management Agency leaders. We know that they were talking about what to expect with the storm preparations. They were also talking a little bit about what to expect in terms of road travel and hazardous conditions. So Kevin, looks like you're back. We have you here now. I see you. Okay. So Kevin, wonderful. Can you give us an update as to what they were talking about today?
Yeah, bottom line in this gathering here was be prepared, get ready. This is nothing to play with. Basically, people need to get ready, and the situation is that you need to be able to get this done by tomorrow afternoon. Right now, we're looking at the worst part of this storm being north of 20, which is not to say that we're not going to have problems south of 20, but the areas north of 20 are really going to be particularly bad, particularly as you go towards the northeast. We're looking at anywhere from a half an inch of ice to an inch of ice, and you may have tires in your truck or whatever, but that you cannot drive on that. You can't do anything with that. The ice accumulating on power lines will collapse. Trees will fall onto power lines, fall onto houses. So people need to be prepared to to take a look at your pipes, your electricity, making sure you have food and water in your home. Stay off the roads. Take a listen to what the GEMA director had to say just a few moments ago.
The work that GEMA and our state partners are doing to prepare for the warning storm, the best help we can get is for individuals to prepare for themselves. We ask that everyone takes the time now to prepare your family, prepare your home, and prepare your car. Sit down with your family and make a communications plan. Know how you'll contact one another if you're reconnected, and if you're separated, how you'll reconnect. Make sure you have a ready kit with enough non-perishable food, water, and medications for 3 days. Ensure you have warm clothing and blankets. Have flashlights and batteries. Update your first aid kit. Remember, always have a way to charge your phone. If you have pets, make sure they have enough food and water for at least 3 days, and let them spend as much time inside with you as possible. Take precautions like installing and testing smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors. Cover your outdoor pipes, seal your doors, windows, clean out your gutters. Think of ways to safely heat your house, especially if the power goes out. And remember, never use your oven to heat your house. And don't bring a portable generator inside.
Yeah, great tips right there. And keep in mind, something that really stood out during that news conference, 3 days. Be prepared for 3 days of trouble. So keep in mind, the Saturday afternoons when we start getting some of that precipitation beginning to freeze over into the afternoon and evening, and that likely Tuesday morning, it is going to be frigid. So anything on the roads Tuesday morning is still going to be ice. Ariel?
Yeah, Kevin, I think that is the big takeaway, is making sure that we are prepared, not just for a day or two, but really making sure we have 3 days worth of supplies, and also making sure that we're prepared to communicate maybe in some way, understanding what that plan looks like with friends and family should our power go out. And you brought up a really great point too, which was just this idea of temperatures are going to be so low the next week. So a lot of people who might expect, oh, the ice is going to melt by Tuesday or by Monday morning. That's not looking like that's going to be the case.
No, and one of the things that was asked in this news conference is that this storm is a humongous storm that's going to be impacting states north to south all around us, and so trying to get utility crews in here. And we understand there will be utility crews from other states that will be able to help us, but obviously even that is going to be a challenge. One thing that also stood out, if you remember, this time last year we had snow and ice and got really bad up in Gwinnett. Well, this is going to be far worse than what we had last year. In fact, the comp is January 2014, which was Snowmageddon. Anyone who lived here during that time knows that was a nightmare. We weren't properly prepared. Even though we are prepared now, that was still a nightmare, and that's what the best comp is for this storm we're about to experience.
Kevin, thank you. Yeah, I think having a reference point to an event we've all experienced and being able to say this is what leaders expect this to be like is helpful for anyone who's been through it, because I've seen a lot of people try to compare this to last year's snow, saying, oh, I bet it'll be nothing because the snow wasn't so bad last year. But snow and ice are two very different ball games, and it seems that ice is yeah, ice seems to be what we may be dealing with. So Kevin, I'll let you get back to information gathering. I really appreciate your time this afternoon, and we'll check in with you here, of course, as the afternoon and evening progresses. You guys, I want to continue to keep you updated because you heard Kevin say it, and Georgia Power is reiterating it. Prepare for 2 to 3 days without power and know what that looks like. Georgia Power is warning residents to prepare for a potential 2 to 3 day power outage because ice can cause, and the winds that we are expecting can cause down trees, down power lines, and a whole host of problems. Crews are already being mobilized in northern regions. They're equipped with studded tires and snow chains to be able to navigate any treacherous roads. But they say that you should prepare, because of this weekend ice storm, for power outages to last longer than just a day or two. Another thing to keep in mind is that they're going to prioritize hospitals and major infrastructure before they address residential neighborhoods. So if power were to go out, your neighborhood is likely not going to be high on the priority list unless it also shares power with major infrastructure and a hospital system. That will be the top priority for Georgia Power crews. And, Kevin mentioned it, because this ice storm is going to be so widespread and really affect half of the United States, we're going to see a lot of power crews being tied up in other areas of the country. Maybe they would normally come to help us if this were more isolated, but because this is going to be widespread, we do expect them to be really busy with their efforts across the country. Another idea just to keep in mind, make sure your carbon monoxide detector works. Make sure that you have one. And that's just because a lot of people, especially in these winter months, try to put on space heaters. They try to warm up their homes, and carbon monoxide is a silent killer. It's odorless, colorless, and it kills hundreds of people every year. And we're told from the CDC that carbon monoxide poisonings frequently happen when temperatures do plunge. Symptoms include headache, nausea, dizziness, and of course, if you have a a fuel burning appliance, this is where we start to see this risk increase, especially leaders at the CDC say that this can happen in 5 minutes or even less. So it's really important to keep that in mind. Have a carbon monoxide alarm in your home on every level and make sure that it is equipped with natural battery or with batteries and ready to detect things that could go awry. If you have any kind of fuel burning appliance, again, things like wood, natural gas, propane, kerosene, that sort of thing, make sure you have a carbon monoxide alarm to be able to detect if those levels increase within your home. Again, another reason they say don't bring generators inside of your house. In the meantime, if you are planning to travel this weekend, or if you're trying to get back in time or get out of Atlanta, we want to take a look at how the airport is preparing for this winter storm. Our Tyler Finger was speaking with maintenance leaders there at the airport to get an understanding as to their operations, and he joins us live now. So Tyler, what are some of the efforts they're taking at Hartsfield-Jackson?
Yeah, Ariel, good afternoon to you. Airport leaders say they are taking no chances when it comes to this winter storm because they want to make sure they can keep the airport open and operating so airlines like Delta, Southwest, United, and American, and every other air carrier can continue to operate throughout the height of this winter storm. Take a look behind me. You are seeing the world's busiest airport on a Friday afternoon. It is operating completely normally right now. We're just about 50 or so degrees here. No need to de-ice, no need to do any of that, but in a matter of 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, de-icing is going to be something we're going to see. Pretty much every plane taking off is going to need that, and that is what the airlines are going to have to deal with. What the airport itself is going to have to deal with is making sure that the runways, the taxiways, the ramps, and all of that is clear. So the airport has activated its cold weather playbook in order to keep the world's busiest airport open. The forecast could cause major travel headaches this weekend, with the Fox 5 storm team saying freezing rain is possible. Look at some of the video we got from earlier when they actually took us out onto the ramp to show us all of the different equipment that they have that they're going to be using this weekend to make sure that they can keep everything open and operating and make sure the runways are clear. This is not something crews here deal with often, but they say everyone involved has been training for months. Airport leaders showed off that equipment, and truly it was pretty interesting to see because they've actually added some new equipment this year. The airport says it spent more than $3 million just in the last 12 months to buy this new stuff so that they can try to make things a lot quicker and speed things up to be able to get this airport open. Top airport leaders say crews have been preparing for days to make sure they have all the necessary equipment and materials needed for this weekend. More than 50 trucks will be out and about de-icing roadways, taxiways, and runways. Take a listen to some of the plans.
Start having treatments as early as 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon before the precipitation comes in, so we're prepared and we get ahead of it. And then when snow actually or rain actually comes and it freezes over, this equipment will be out there.
We've added some new equipment this year so we can clear the airfield at a higher rate of speed and return it back to the airlines for their operations a lot sooner than we were able to in the past.
And in addition to the new trucks that they got, I asked the leaders here at the airport we talked with just how quickly can they clear a runway. They say it takes just about 30 minutes to make sure it is safe to operate so planes can take off and land. I thought that was interesting. Obviously, in some other major airports like Denver, where they see a lot of snow, they can clear those runways a lot quicker. But in an airport like this, where we don't have something like winter weather as often, it takes a little bit longer, but they say that they are doing things as quickly as possible, and I thought 30 minutes was pretty good. Erin?
Yeah, Tyler, you know, I think that's something right to drive home is just for a lot of people who are wondering why Atlanta might be concerned about this winter storm. We don't see weather. You know, we're not a Denver. We're not a Midwest or a Canada, right, that's used to levels of ice and snow frequently at airports. And so understanding the steps it takes to try to get things prepped and ready to go is really helpful. I didn't realize it took 30 minutes, so that is good to know. And Tyler, you know, I'm looking at our TikTok comments, and someone just commented and said that their flight just got canceled as they were watching us, it seems. So it seems like this kind of ripple effect and airlines making some adjustments might already be starting.
So there's 2 points to what you made, and I'll hit both of them. First, obviously last year during that winter storm in January, we saw the airport come to a complete halt for several hours. That was a two-pronged problem. The first problem was on one of the runways, they had a Delta Airlines plane that was taking off for, I think it was Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport, had to evacuate on the runway. Everyone had, all 200 and some odd passengers had to be pulled off the plane, go down the slides because of an emergency on board. That shut that runway down. And then obviously the snow that we were seeing last January also then caused the other 4 runways here to not be safe for takeoffs and landings for several hours. So they're trying to prevent a repeat performance like last year. So that's why they bought some of that new equipment, spent more than $3 million to be able to make sure that they can continue the operations here as smoothly as possible. And then the other point to what you mentioned, that person having their flight canceled. So airlines are certainly trying to offer those waivers to try to not have as many people flying this weekend. I'll tell you, I was supposed to be traveling tonight and coming back on Monday. I canceled my trip, not aware or not, just worried about the fact that I may not be able to get home on Monday if the operations here at the airport are crippled. We know that airlines deal with huge staffs that they have to be able to operate. When you start having cancellations and delays because of different weather events or other issues, you start having crews out of place. That then causes issues with able to operate the schedule that they were planning to operate in the months before when they put out their schedules and people started buying tickets. They're not just simply able to take off with random crews. They have to be able to have certain pilots who can fly certain planes. You have to have flight attendants who are legally able to work. They're only allowed to fly a certain number of hours a day per FAA mandate. Same thing with pilots. Pilots are somewhere around 12, 13 hours. Flight attendants are somewhere around 15 hours. So if someone came in earlier in the day, let's say for a flight at 8 a.m., they're no longer legal to fly somewhere around 10, 11 o'clock at night. So they have to really make sure that they are dealing with that. And so a lot of airlines are going to try to thin the herd, as they call it. They don't want, for like Delta specifically, this being a main hub where we see somewhere around 70-75% of the flights here at Hartsfield, they don't want planes just sitting on the ground here because that could also put stress on those planes. So they're going to do what they call thinning the herd and try to put them in other areas, and that could also be why that person's flight was either canceled or delayed. And we're going to see a lot of that as they really narrow down this forecast. We know Delta Airlines has meteorologists in place over at their general offices. I can see it over there, off to my left over there. They are really monitoring the storm themselves, just like our Fox 5 Storm Team meteorologists. So really it's going to be something that we're going to see probably lots of issues here at the airport. But really what the officials have been telling us today, their major goal with all of this is to make sure that the runways are clear so that if Delta is able to operate or one of the other air carriers is able to operate a flight, they have the ability to.
Yeah, Tyler, it makes sense, and I really appreciate the thorough breakdown as to how this is going to work, especially as we look ahead. You know, the winter storm is going to affect half of the United States, so it's not just Atlanta that has to deal with the ripple effect of weather delays, cancellations. You know, airplanes, they come and go from various airports, so this is definitely going to be something that we monitor. Tyler Finger, thanks so much for letting us know how Atlanta's airport is preparing and how they're trying to make sure runways stay clear for those flights. So Tyler Finger, thanks so much. We'll check in with you, of course, as the afternoon progresses. In the meantime, you guys, we're going to continue to keep you updated here on Fox Local as we learn more about weather impacts. Like I said, if you're just joining us here, we are going to check in with meteorologist Jonathan Stacy on the latest forecast models and what to expect with this storm. He's hoping to join us around 2:30, 2:35 or so. Right now, he is on a call with the National Weather Service where he gets the latest information, and then he's going to come right out and give it to you guys. So I'll try to monitor our chats on YouTube, TikTok to see if you have questions. But in the meantime, I'd like to tell you about some other things happening here across the nation. On Capitol Hill today, health insurance CEOs were actually grilled about their role in America's healthcare crisis. High prices, a sicker nation, and no clear fix. One of the things that health insurance CEOs faced today on Capitol Hill was bipartisan condemnation. The top executives from America's biggest health insurers pretty much got a beat down, and lawmakers from both the Democratic and Republican sides want CEOs CEOs to address why prices are so high, Americans are sicker, and the root causes as to why we're seeing these soaring healthcare costs. Democrats say coverage needs to be expanded because uninsured patients pay more at the ER. The CEOs did fire back, noting that operating costs have increased significantly over the past decade, and that's why health insurance prices have risen. But some lawmakers have pointed out and said, hey, you're just passing these costs along to your customers. The proof is in the profits for you. Republicans took a different approach, spending much of this hearing slamming Obamacare and claiming that that's the reason that healthcare is becoming unaffordable, saying that it's warped incentives, federalized benefits, and restricted plan design and made access to healthcare limited. President Trump is making a big push for his own healthcare plan. He says he's going to bypass insurers and send money directly to the individuals. We'll keep an eye on that and how that is supposed to work. In the meantime, I want to let you know a little bit more about the White House's plan to bring down housing costs. It's been a topic we've talked a lot about here, as many Americans want to buy a house but can't afford it. And the White House has been facing pressure to try to do something about this. So they've proposed a plan, and we've already discussed it a little bit here, but I'd like to go a little bit more in depth because we're getting a more detailed look. They talked about the restrictions that they would place on large firm investors, an idea that Democrats say they've been working on. And President Trump did tout this at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. He's proposing also capping credit card costs, lowering mortgage rates, and restricting large investors from buying up single-family homes. Research from the Government Accountability Office shows that even moderate buying up of single-family homes can drive up prices in local markets. We know that big firms own roughly 1% of the single-family housing stock. So the president's proposed ban would not force investors to sell these properties that they already own. Rather, it would put restrictions on future purchases. Critics do say this doesn't address current supply shortages, but the plan does require congressional approval before going into law. Senate Democrats say they've already been trying to address this issue, and they pointed to a bipartisan bill that's been held up in the House. President Trump says his policies to lower home prices are already working, and he's pointed to mortgage rates falling to a 3-year low this month. Finally, you guys, I want to let you know the United States has officially withdrawn from the World Health Organization. This has been a significant update because it comes a year after President Trump signed an executive order to initiate this departure process. In that order, President Trump said the WHO mishandled the COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Health and Human Services announced the withdrawal just yesterday, saying that the WHO, quote, acted contrary to U.S. interest in protecting the American public, end quote. Now, Health and Human Services has said the WHO delayed to declare the COVID-19 pandemic as a global health emergency. The WHO's general doctor at the time condemned that decision earlier this month for the United States to withdraw. Coming up, you guys, we're going to continue to keep you updated on some developing stories. I want to let you know where we stand with some stories right here in the Atlanta area. Our Angelique Proctor's following up on a tragic story dealing with the deaths of 4 people. We're going to discuss how this happened coming up next. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here with us on our Friday afternoon. We are following the latest impacts of the winter storm that we expect to happen in the Atlanta metro area and North Georgia. Our Jonathan Stacy, meteorologist Jonathan Stacy, is on a phone call with the National Weather Service where he's getting the latest information. And then around 2:30, 2:35, he's going to join us here live and we're going to discuss what he has learned. But in the meantime, I want to keep you updated on some local headlines we're following here in our newsroom here at Fox 5. Just a horrible situation unfolded earlier this morning in Gwinnett County. We've learned that 4 people have died, and our Angelique Proctor joins us live to explain how this happened. Angelique, I understand that this shooting this morning happened in the vicinity of children, and one of them ended up calling for help. Is that true?
That is true. One of them courageous enough to pick up the phone and call police for help. We now know that child was just 12 years old. This is really just an unspeakable tragedy. Just this neighborhood really still in shock. Lots of people have been driving by to take a look at the scene of what happened here. But police have just given us some new information within the last hour. They now have released the name of the suspect in this case, as well as the victims. He is 51-year-old Vijay Kumar, and what we've learned is that he was actually from Atlanta, that Kumar drove here to Gwinnett County, according to what police are telling us, with his wife. Her name was Mimu Dogra. They got into an argument in Atlanta, according to police, then drove here to Gwinnett County with their 12-year-old child in that car. Now, police say once they got here, Kumar shot and killed not only his wife, but 3 other relatives. Now, police say just about 2 weeks ago, a mail caller from this same house was in a dispute with his brother-in-law at that time. That was actually January the 10th. They called officers for help. Police say they responded, and the brother-in-law agreed to leave the scene. Well, this morning around 2:30 a.m., that is when this child called police and notified them of this shooting. We have been told that there were 3 children inside, one now 7 years old, another 10 years old, and then that 12-year-old who is the suspect's child, that they all hid in a closet, if you could imagine this, as this very violent shooting was happening. Just an unimaginable position for anyone, especially children. Now, Gwinnett police tell us that they arrived so quickly that suspect Kumar was still in the vicinity. We also talked with a woman who lives in this neighborhood and says she has dogs, and her dogs immediately realized something was wrong.
Her dogs barking. I think the dogs started barking, and that's what got my dogs all riled up, because Teddy and Simon hear sirens, but they don't bark at it. But they went ballistic, and it was scary I didn't understand what was going on, so I was totally shocked to see it was something really tragic so close.
Based on the information given by the child that called in and what officers saw when they arrived, they still saw the suspect's vehicle in the driveway. So because they got here so quickly, they figured he was still close by. So K-9 officers were dispatched and arrived on scene, and they located him in the wood line. It's definitely a tragic situation. 4 people dying at the same time, especially with children in the home, is very, very tragic. It's shocking to anybody.
And we are now getting information about Kumar's charges. He will face 4 counts of malice murder, 4 counts of felony murder, as well as 4 counts of aggravated assault. He also faces 3 counts of cruelty to children. And there is definitely a lot of concern for those children. A lot of people wondering, certainly their lives will never be the same. What happens to them now? We are told, according to police, that they are now with family members.
Angelique, this is an absolutely heartbreaking story. I can only imagine how those children must feel, and the courage it took for that 12-year-old to call 911 knowing there was something wrong with their own parents. So, Angelique, as we look through this situation, I know the big question I think a lot of people are wondering is just how could a person do this? What was the motive, or what led up to this? I know police haven't necessarily released that information, but any other big questions outstanding for you as you cover this tragic story?
Well, as you said, the question of why is the one that's nagging at so many people, and police did say in their press release that they are not familiar with why. But I did talk to a neighbor today who says that she noticed a female that lives in the house behind me, and she used to see her sort of walking and pacing and crying and on the phone, and she says now that she looks back, it was obvious to her that there was something wrong. And so with them also coming here earlier in the month on January the 10th, that is an indication that there was clearly some kind of dispute, some kind of feud that was brewing, and certainly it seems, according to police, with this being a domestic shooting, has come to a head here in such a very tragic way.
Yeah, Angelique, thank you so much for keeping us updated and letting me know where we stand with this story. Appreciate your time and your reporting today, and we'll check back in with you, of course, as things progress. Guys, let's move on here really quickly. I want to get you an update on a story that I know a lot of you care about, because we talk a lot about these AI data centers coming to the Atlanta metro area. So I want to get an update on this, and then coming up, we're going to talk with Jonathan Stacy in just a little bit. But Spalding County has just approved a massive, nearly $4 billion data center. It's going to span 190 acres along I-75, and the project is really staggering in scale because it's going to be a 5 million square foot facility, roughly 3 times the size of Lenox Square Mall, to put things in perspective for you. And this data center is going to consist of 10 separate buildings. Spalding County commissioners unanimously approved this facility along Interstate 75. They claim the project's going to lower tax burdens for residents, and it's not going to leave residents responsible for the development costs. Residents, however, oppose this plan, citing concerns over environmental pollution and the loss of generational agricultural land going to this data center. So that is something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on, because, again, this complex is going to be roughly 2 times the size of Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so just massive. We'll keep you updated on this story as it progresses here. In the meantime, though, I know you guys want to know the latest as to where we stand with our weather forecast. Jonathan Stacy just finished up with the National Weather Service, so we're going to chat with him coming up next. Welcome in, everyone. As promised, Ariel Onstad here with meteorologist Jonathan Stacy. Jonathan, you're a popular guy, man of the hour. You just wrapped up with the National Weather Service. I know you gave me some information right at the top of 2 o'clock to tell the folks about the ice storm warning. So what is the latest information and where do we stand?
Okay, so I took some notes while I was in that conversation so I could pass everything along to you all immediately. Here's the deal. The big news into the afternoon is that the Atlanta metro area and points further to the south and to the east and even to the north and to the west of the city, which hasn't been an area of major concern for long, are now under that ice storm watch. So let's take you here to this. This is our winter weather alert. 2 alerts in effect right now. The lesser of the 2 is the winter storm watch that will at some point in time likely be upgraded to a warning potentially for some of our southernmost counties. The National Weather Service hasn't really decided exactly how they want to do it, but the most pressing of all of these is this winter storm warning along with the ice storm warning that you see there. Okay, so I want to make sure this is all up to date here because it's not showing that Atlanta. Okay, there you go. Sometimes the computer is trying to digest a lot of information at one time. I was like, this doesn't look right, but you can see all counties shaded here in the violet color now under that ice storm warning. This is a major situation, folks. We haven't had a situation like this occur in our neck of the woods in some 12 years. It's been 12 years since an ice storm warning, I should say, has been issued. What does that mean? You could get accumulation of ice up to 1 inch. Generally, we're expecting at this time for the Atlanta metro area to set somewhere around 1/2 inch. But Ariel, I won't waste your time. Let's go ahead and dive into the timeline, and I'm going to guide the cursor here and walk you all through everything. So just give me 1 second so I can get this nice and big and I can have complete control. Today has been a great day of preparation, and I want to say many of you are going to have the opportunity to prepare as you get into the day tomorrow. After tomorrow, I think it's all gone downhill. If you don't have it, you're not going to be able to get it. If it's not on, it's not going to come on. Okay, so it's now 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you all have plans, or perhaps you're going out tonight, you have family, friends coming into town, I'm not worried about anything, especially here in North Georgia. If you're flying out west, that system is moving in from the west. That could be a different story. So now this model's flying. I want to take you all a little bit slower here, so let me get control of it. So it's now about 10 o'clock in the morning. Nothing has happened. Here's the deal, Ariel. I think a lot of people need to understand this new update with the forecast puts this system squarely in the PM period of Saturday.
Got it.
I don't think we'll see a flake, flurry, or drop
until the PM Saturday.
Until the PM hours. So if you have plans tomorrow, let's not cancel them unless you need sunshine and warm temperatures and light winds. Okay, taking you through the remainder of the day. It's now 4 o'clock. Some specks are falling from the sky. What will they be? Well, they'll fall as liquid. How will they land? It just depends on the temperature profile for your specific area. Blairsville, Gainesville, Canton, below freezing or at freezing. Same for Athens. Here in the metro area, we're on the cusp of going down. The sun sets, and that's when the weather goes downhill because temperatures area-wide at this point are now at or below freezing. 29 here in Atlanta. Those winds coming in out of the north and the east fairly fierce at that time. Look at this. It's now 10 o'clock at night. So I don't want you to waste your Saturday saying, they said it was going to start on Saturday.
Right.
Yes, it technically starts on Saturday, but most of us are inside. If anything, we're just trying to get away from those wicked winds and the very cold temperatures that will be laying hold. 29 degrees at 10 o'clock. Let's keep on going here.
Yeah.
Okay, it's now 1 o'clock in the morning. And so you've had, at this point, some 3 to 4 hours of solid freezing rain.
Oh boy.
What does that do? That accumulates, and this is how you get closer to your 1/4 inch. Keeps on going through Sunday morning, and now we're at the 6 to 7 hour window. So this is how you get your 1/2 inch, maybe 1 inch up there in the northeastern quadrant of the state. More rain continues to fall over the area, freezing rain that is, and then sometime Sunday, the model is suggesting that there's going to be a changeover. I'm not quite buying it yet. I need the system to handle it one wave at a time.
I see.
It's showing a lot of the moisture now could roll to the north before some heavier downpours could roll in during the second half of the day on Sunday. Now, what this could lead to, the temperature here, according to this model, is not coming above freezing in the city and for points to the east. That's a concerning situation. If we can push that number to 33 or higher, that means that we'll have a chance to get some melting going. Melting that we'll really want to make happen. This model is saying it doesn't happen for Atlanta and for Gainesville. I-85 should the north and to the east of town. But where melting occurs, it will make for a much easier go by the time we wake up on Monday morning, because temperatures will be stifled greatly. In fact, it will be 22 degrees. Can I even say that? 22 degrees at 9 o'clock on Monday. Those winds coming in out of the north and west now, and temperatures will not come above freezing all day long. I want to show you this, because as we head to bed on Tuesday night, this is why I hope power does not go out. Because as we wake up, you're not looking at wind chills, folks. These are actual air temperatures that you will read on your thermometer.
Brutal.
It will be 6 degrees in Canton, 9 in Rome, 12 in Atlanta. If it's 12 in Atlanta, that will be the coldest temperature we've had in a very, very long time. 8 degrees in Blairsville, 16 in Griffin. So this does not have your typical orientation of, okay, once we get the moisture out of here, our worries are behind us. After the rain is done, the freezing rain is over, there will still be ice on the ground. And we're going to have to deal with this thing where there could be some melting, but there could also be some refreezing on the backs of extremely cold temperatures. A flash freeze is not likely Monday, but Tuesday, I can see it happening.
And Jonathan, you know, I think so often we think, okay, this storm comes through, and once we weather the storm, the worst is over, and whoo, sigh of relief. But what we're seeing with this is the temperatures are going to be so cold once this is done that it's not like the ice that we have gotten is just going to melt. So if you have experienced a power outage, say, because of the ice on power lines or a tree or something of that nature coupled with the winds, if you lose power and then you have these really, really cold temperatures and there's ice on the roads everywhere, you just need to kind of stay put, and it's going to be cold and you may not have power. That could be the reality for some people.
It's a double whammy, a double-edged sword, if you will, because here's the deal. The winds obviously going to usher in colder air. So the temperatures are going to drop. The higher the winds are, the faster the temperatures are going to drop. Along with that, we're going to also have more power outages if we have had ice going for some 12 hours and it's now 2 o'clock and you have wind gusts up near, say, 30 miles an hour as they come into the state. You can see this little swift line connecting through the area. Okay, so 41 mile per hour gusts there in Canton at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Match that up. Okay, the precip is moving out. However, you have some really strong winds. That means that the vulnerable power lines are likely going to even be more vulnerable to snapping. We know a windy day here can knock
100%.
down a few power lines. Okay, then the issue that comes on the other side of that is linemen, when they're going out to actually repair the lines, they cannot lift that bucket up in the air with wind gusts some 30 to 40 miles per hour in the air. So it's just kind of like, if this happens, then this happens, then that happens.
Domino
there
effect.
could be people without power, but also in the cold as long as Wednesday. And I'm not representing any sort of power company.
Right.
I'm just telling you
Being realistic.
If the meteorology verifies, we could have a ripple effect situation here where things do not end in terms of the impact to you, your family, your pets, your neighborhood, as the moisture moves out.
Jonathan, in this final minute or so that we have, I'm going to scroll through our comments here in some of our chats, just because we have people streaming live with us, so that way if you have questions, we can try to answer them. We have some people watching from Michigan. Some people are talking about how flights are already being canceled. Someone was asking us what hour window, and I just want to point out at the top of your screen, you could see Sunday at 4 p.m. As you were progressing those models, you could kind of see the timing as things move.
That damage will have already been done by 4 in the afternoon. And
Sunday.
This could be an opportunity for there to be some melting. But I want to say it here. If you haven't been listening up, if you kind of tuned out for a second, I'm going to make a clarion call. I'm going to say this again at 3 o'clock and at 4 o'clock. My window of the worst impacts for the Atlanta metro area specifically, and generally North Georgia, 6 p.m. Saturday to 6 a.m. Sunday.
Okay.
That's a 12-hour period that if you do not want to shelter in place, do it outside of that period of time. I would still stay inside Sunday for the better part of Sunday, but it's 6 p.m. Saturday to 6 a.m. Sunday when the worst will impact our area. The coldest temperatures and the most abundant moisture supply meeting up at the right time or the wrong time, no matter how you want to put it, to create a really dangerous scenario outside.
Jonathan, I appreciate you as always making sense of this. I think you've been really clear, and the lead time we've been able to have with this has really been helpful. So I mean, we knew and we're starting to talk about this Monday, Tuesday of this week. So you guys coming up at 3 o'clock, Jonathan's going to come back out. We're going to have another update as to what is going on with our weather forecast. But in the meantime, I want to let you know what Georgia Department of Transportation is doing with our weather forecast and how they are making some steps to try to get the roads ready. So we're going to talk to Chris Rosenthal about that coming up next. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks for being here with us live as we talk about the effects to the North Georgia, Atlanta metro area, and here throughout the Southeast as we prepare for this incoming winter storm. One thing, of course, the big question is what Georgia's roads are going to look like, and the Georgia Department of Transportation is taking this seriously and trying to make sure that things are safe. So Chris Rosenthal went out and was able to catch up with them today. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Give us an overview. What are they doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm here at one of the GDOT facilities in Forest Park where these trucks you see behind me, they are ready to roll. They'll be set to go out about midnight, filled with brine to pre-treat the roads, get them ready for those icy conditions that we are expecting to have. And I'm joined by here she is with GDOT, and tell me, first of all, talking about these trucks, what will these guys be doing here?
So this is our 12 main brine tankers that treat our metro area plan. Now every district has their own brine capabilities, so this isn't what we're sending out statewide. This is just the metro treatment plan. We have 12 tankers that carry about 7,000 gallons of brine each, but we are constantly refilling those because we have about 2 million gallons right now at any time ready to use. So these guys will go out about midnight. They'll start spraying, every lane. We're not talking once around 285, every lane of 285, 75, 85. So we'll start treating our interstate lanes and then move on as we can to those state routes. But again, they're just spraying that water salt solution, which is brine, that's going to lower the point at which ice will freeze and bind to the road.
Yeah, and talking about that strategy, of obviously they can't hit everything all at once. So what areas are we targeting here?
So we start with our major interstates. Yeah. If you'll come this way, I'll show you all of the trucks we have. I want to make sure everyone sees, we have a great arsenal here. Each of these is going to be in a different section of Metro Atlanta. So they have different routes that they go, 285, 75, 85, I-20. So they'll be treating all of the major interstates first. Now we do that to keep emergency personnel moving, those power trucks that are going to need to be getting in and out, ambulances, emergency personnel. We start with interstate lanes first, and then we move on to those secondary routes, which are state routes. We prioritize by, most traveled, near hospitals, things like that.
Of course, and we were talking earlier. I mean, these aren't going to handle your neighborhood. This isn't going to handle your local roads. So even though the highways may be treated, getting out to the highways is going to be tough. So stay at home, huh?
Right. The first step is getting out of your driveway. That may be the most treacherous part of the whole scenario. But when we get ice in the South, really all bets are off. It's not a when can I travel and what is essential travel. It is a no travel situation. You and I were talking, like, I've been at this for about 15 years. I've asked Metro Atlantans to stay home. I'm like a mom many, many times. If you ever feel the need to heed the warning of us and department personnel and emergency services, it's during an ice storm. We can't drive on ice. Our crews have a hard time with ice. Ice is very different than snow, so just stay home.
Yeah, we've been through the Snowmageddons and the Ice-mageddons. What have you guys learned and put into place since then?
Well, so much. I mean, this is a great visual representation of that. During Snowmageddon, we didn't brine anything. We just didn't have a brine program in Georgia. Since then, we've not only grown the metro area brine plan, statewide every district has their own brine operations. Again, 2 million gallons ready to go at any time, but we're constantly here making and refilling. So, we'll continue to brine. So whether it's how we use people, equipment, technology, all of these different things, materials, all these different things have grown since Snowmageddon. We have learned so much. I'd say the one thing that really hasn't changed is the dedication of our employees. They're going to work overnight in cold, treacherous conditions. They're going to work during the day, hopefully not as trees and power lines are falling, but that might be the reality. They're out there working for the citizens of Georgia. They work incredibly hard. They are incredibly dedicated. So if you want to say thank you to them, stay off the road. That's the best way to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of hours for them. Yeah, don't stay off the roads. Say thank you to them. You don't have to do it in person. Because you'll be home. So let these guys out there to do their jobs, keep the roads clear, to keep us safe, and keep those vehicles that really do need to be out there safe on the roads, guys.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's a really good piece of advice, right? Of just staying out of the way. If it's not essential for you to go out, don't do it. So I appreciate the overview, Chris. We appreciate you. We're going to let you get back to it because I want to move on and get you guys really quickly an update from Eli Jordan as he spoke with an arborist about the impact of ice building up on trees and what this could mean in terms of your house or roads as we take a look at what could be a potential power outage here in the state of Georgia. Trees, of course, will play a big role in that with this storm. So let's listen to some of the tips and tricks from the arborist.
Hey, I'm talking trees out here at Pinckneyville Park because ice is extremely damaging to trees, and then it can be extremely dangerous to you and your property. And I'm here with arborist Joshua Murata, and he is the owner of Atlanta Arbor. Hey, Josh, how's it going?
I'm doing great.
So tell me, how concerned are you about this weather this weekend?
If we get what they're saying we're going to get, then extremely nervous. I mean, it's going to be detrimental to a lot of trees around Metro Atlanta just due to the volume of evergreens that we have around Atlanta. Pine trees are a lot more susceptible to failure. They hold a lot more ice. So if we get what they're calling for, it's going to be pretty bad.
And so, I mean, prevention is the big key, but we're beyond that. I mean, we're just a couple days away, so we're not going to get an arborist out to our house. But if I have a lot of trees around my house, what are some do's and don'ts?
Okay, so making sure that you're being self-aware. Pay attention to your trees. If you start seeing some of these limbs sagging down towards the ground, don't go up to your tree. Don't try to shake ice off of it. Don't try to help a bowing tree. Never stand underneath something that's bowed over, whether it's limbs. Keep your kids inside. Make sure you don't have cars parked under it. If you're in the house and you start to notice trees and limbs bowing over, get to a safer area in the house where you're away from any impending failures that may hit the home.
So don't shake a tree, even if I feel like, hey, I'm going to knock some of that ice off.
Absolutely worst thing you could possibly do, because when you go to shake it and it's under pressure, you have all this bowing pressure on the stem of the tree or on the limb itself. The tree can end up snapping and failing, and then you're on the wrong side of it because you're underneath where it's going to fail.
Now, as the weather comes and goes, trees might be damaged that we don't know about, correct?
Correct. So a lot of the damage that we see, or a lot of the failures that we see on trees, happens after. You may have a stem that is cracked on, one of the branches or at a bifurcation in the stem you're not aware of. After the storm, everything thaws, then you get these winds coming through, you're going to have a lot of these limbs coming down. So you're not out of the woods just because the storm's over or the ice is melted. That's when we see the majority of the failures from ice storms, is after the storm's done.
So Monday, there might be a lot of ice left too, because they're saying we're going to have refreezes, but the wind is also going to kick up.
Correct. Yeah.
Is Monday going to be a busy day for you?
Monday's going to be very busy. We're anticipating Sunday and Monday being extremely busy, as long as we're able to deploy crews on Sunday. But even after this storm, I recommend having an arborist on your property at least every 2 years. That way you can be able to identify any potential hazards you may have around the property. So keeping your trees safe is always a key. They're, living organisms that have a huge effect, positive on our homes, but they can have a detrimental effect if they're not managed properly. So arborists coming out to check your trees every couple of years is key.
Bottom line, this weekend, what should homeowners do?
Stay aware. Keep an eye out, out the window, check your trees. If things start bowing and freezing, get your family somewhere safe in the home where you're away from, anything that could potentially fail and fall in the house.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. You heard it. Stay aware of your trees during this ice storm. Protect yourself, protect your property. I'll give it back to you guys.
Thanks so much for giving us an update as to how we can protect the trees on our property, and of course make sure that they don't pose a threat, because Tom, I think that's one of the biggest things that we're looking at with ice is the power outage, and of course the storm's set to bring some winds, and trees are going to play a big role in potential falling on power lines.
Yeah, the trees may wind up being the star of the show this weekend. I mean, if we can get beyond the icy roads, it's going to be the trees that we're going to be watching out for, because those are the things that are going to knock out the power.
Yeah.
Trees falling on power lines, trees falling into roadways.
Yeah.
I mean, with the weight of the ice. So great words there to sort of be careful, mind your surroundings, and pay attention this weekend. Ariel, we got a lot still to come here in the 3 o'clock streaming hour. Just a ton of information for you on what's happening this weekend with the weather. Our Jonathan Stacy he's been on the phone all day with the National Weather Service, gathering the very latest information. The biggest question I'm getting from folks out there when I'm around town is timing. When is this going to happen? What is it going to look like? Jonathan has a lot more answers right now, and so he's on deck. He's going to join us here at the top of the 3 p.m. streaming hour. We're also with the mayor this afternoon. How's Atlanta preparing for all this? Our Eric Perry will have information on what the city is doing. He was with the mayor today. And of course, aside from the weather, we have other news today. The DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, they have a huge presence here in Atlanta. This is a huge sort of trafficking point. I mean, think about Atlanta. We're one of the huge hubs of the Southeast, so a lot comes through here, and so the DEA has to flex in our area, and our Ray Urena was with them today to find out what they're doing, their latest efforts on behalf of the people of our city to control drugs and the flow in and out of here. So we're going to check in with Ray as well.
Busy hour coming up, you guys, and Jonathan Stacy is coming up after this.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. Tom Haines, joined by meteorologist Jonathan Stacy from the Fox 5 Storm Center. Jonathan, all week has been tracking our winter weather set to move in this weekend. Jonathan, so many people wondering about the timing and the severity of this storm and just what it's going to look like here Saturday, Sunday, Monday as we roll into the next week.
Okay, so here we go. We've had a week-long lead on this storm, which has been quite impressive. There's rarely a weather event that we get a kind of a week long or a week ahead heads up, and that's what we have here. So let's take a look now. I'm going to switch computers up here, Ariel, and we can take a look at the computer I have over here on my screen.
While we're hanging on this one.
Yeah,
oh, okay, there you go.
That is the winter alerts here, but I think this draws a pretty good picture of what we can expect. Now I want to show you this here. We do know at this point that the most severe impacts or extreme impacts will be across the northeastern section of the state here.
Let's take it full because I can't read some of the
can't quite
writing up to the top right.
There
you go.
That?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is between I-75 to the east and I-85 to the north. If you could almost draw maybe 1/4 of the pie out that is North Georgia, that's where we'll find the greatest impacts, and that is along the fall line here. Where you get into the higher elevations, places like Rabun County. One of the places that we'll really have our population centers, if you will, that we'll have our sights set on is Gainesville, and going down
coming
985,
parts of Alpharetta too.
Yeah,
right?
and so that's what why I wanted to zoom in here, because the metro area could be a case of the haves and the have-nots. So North Fulton County, I think that's where we'll find some of the most significant impacts in terms of ice, along with North Gwinnett County, especially those communities that are near and around Lake Lanier. But even as you get into DeKalb and into Central Fulton, going into Buckhead downtown, I think there are going to be some significant concerns. This is a 3 out of 5 concern of moderate in the orange shading here. When you get into the yellow areas, that's anywhere from Rome, and if you can draw arc down to Spalding County, that's going to be an area that we're just going to have to watch with some suspicion and some caution. But the brunt of the impacts, once again, hitting those who are across northeast Georgia, with the metro area, especially for DeKalb, Forsyth, and Gwinnett counties, getting a significant amount of ice. That said, the National Weather Service this afternoon placed pretty much the majority of our area, especially for areas that are along and near the I-75 corridor and to the north and to the east, under an ice storm warning. Ice accumulation up to an inch is possible between Saturday 1 p.m., that's early, and as late as Monday 10 a.m. So the impact right now, and I want to be very clear in saying this, people really want us to isolate and get to a really concrete time. Tom, what I'm going with is 6 p.m. Saturday till 6 a.m. Sunday is the worst of it all.
So this is an overnight
It's
event.
an overnight. It's going to be a rise and see what you got type situation.
Yeah.
I think that's when we have the steadiest batch of freezing rain, and that's when the temperatures are the coldest. And that is not a surprise to anyone because that's when it's dark. That's when your temperatures typically drop. So let's go ahead and run the model here. I'm going to open it up like I did during the previous hour so I can control things here. The rest of today is fairly quiet. Winds are going to start hustling overnight. They'll be coming in out of the north and the east. That creates a wedge, and you can see here temperatures already on the downturn. 41 here tomorrow morning in Atlanta. As someone was asking, well, if road temperatures right now are around 50 degrees, how are we going to have surfaces that are able to sustain frozen precip by this time tomorrow? Well, here's the deal. The temperature tomorrow is going down all day long. So 6 a.m. is 41 degrees. Let's keep moving the clock forward. Instead of it warming up as we typically do as we get into the late morning and early afternoon, by 10 o'clock it's now 39 degrees. The numbers don't go back up. 37 at 1 o'clock. So that continual progression of cold air as the temperature goes down will make the surface ripe to sustain any freezing rain that leads to ice development. development. Okay, the first sign of moisture is now 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon. Hear me clearly, folks. I know we call Saturday a storm alert day, but it's the second half of the day and maybe even the post-sunset period that many of us will see our first sign of anything falling from the sky. So if you have plans tomorrow, especially if those plans don't rely on sunshine and warm temperatures, go ahead and get them done. Tomorrow is not a day to throw away. It is tomorrow night when the weather takes a pretty sharp turn.
You don't want to be out there after dark.
Yeah, you don't. Especially because you will not be able to diagnose what's slick, especially if you're in a car. It's now 7 o'clock and you can see here the wall of moisture moving in, and as it crosses the state line, it runs into much colder air into that wedge territory, and you can see here the numbers are falling quickly. 26, 25 degrees Blairsville to Gainesville, 28 in Athens, 27 degrees in Atlanta, 30 degrees as far south as Griffin, 29 as we get into the 9 p.m. hour. This is now 9 o'clock. Things have really just gotten out of control pretty quickly. 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. That gives us a 6 to 8 hour window of steady freezing rain, and this is why we're saying that there just won't be slick spots, but there could be accumulation up to a half inch here in the metro area. It's because of the duration, not because of the nature of the system, but because it's going to last much longer than the typical bouts.
And it's interesting, temperatures in the 20s, yet it's not snowing, it's freezing rain. What's up with that?
Rain. Because we kept on talking about how there was some warm air sneaking in, and that warm air travels just above the surface. And so with that warm air traveling just above the surface, what is going to happen is that atmospheric profile is going to stay the same. So that warm nose that is basically stepping out from, let's see if I can zoom out over here, that's coming in from Alabama, and that's giving us some warmer air, and basically we're not getting our worst snowstorm. When we get down to the surface, that's when we go back to freezing. Well, why is that happening? Is because of the wedge. And so the wedge, on those wedge days, that's when the clouds hang really low. It's really dreary out there. You have mist and pockets of drizzle, but it's all between the ground and maybe about 300 or 400 feet above our heads that the weather's happening. And that's that shallow layer of cold air that's going to fall to or below freezing, and that will make a difference. So it's falling as liquid, but when it hits the ground, it will definitely be frozen.
So here we are at 10 a.m. Sunday. Then is that it, or do we get another hit of moisture coming in?
We're not done, and this is what we're trying to really hone in on. I was just talking to David Chandley about this, is the models have been hinting at an all-out rain event happening as we get into the second half of the day Sunday. Look at this, Tom. Keep your eyes on Atlanta. 29 degrees, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well,
never gets above freezing.
Never gets above freezing. In the areas that are hit the hardest, never gets above freezing.
Yeah.
So literally you could be calling your friends and your neighbors who live 10 miles in either direction, and they're experiencing a much different situation. Do not be tempted to go outside. If you can, just stay inside and rough it out through Sunday. Monday, there's a hope of things getting better, but I don't see much sunshine in the forecast.
And that nose that you were talking about, it's coming from the north, and that's why the north and east part of the state are going to get it harder than anyone else, because it's kind of wrapping around from the north and creeping into the eastern and northern part of our state.
And that's going to be much colder on the surface. As the system comes in, it's bringing in some warm air with it, but that warm air is not going to win out over that cold, shallow air that's present across North and East Georgia, and even the North and East Metro. DeKalb, Gwinnett for sure, Hall County, Forsyth County.
Yeah, up and east.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting.
Up that I-85 corridor.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime, even 985 as you get into Hall County.
So if you're down here and you're like, what's the big deal? Nothing's happening to me. Just think of our friends up north and east.
It will be a case of the have and the have-nots.
What is a wedge?
A wedge is basically this phenomenon. You know where the Appalachian mountain chain sits? Basically, you have air that's coming in from the east. Literally the Atlantic over here, the Appalachian mountain chain. Atlanta, North Georgia is down to the south. This is my kind of crooked way of drawing. Actually, I can do it better right here.
No, but it demonstrated itself in that one map that you had that showed where it's going to be cold and where it's not.
Here we go. We can do this on the spot here. Let me see if I can get that.
There you go. That's it. That's the one I was talking about. And you see the red? Is that the wedge we're talking about?
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
wedge area. And so basically, the Appalachian Mountain chain extends into North Georgia, Blairsville, Gainesville, Toccoa, higher elevation there. Air is moving in from the north and the east, basically moving in a direction that pushes against the mountains. And it says, I cannot climb over the mountains. I've been trying, but I cannot make it over the mountains to get into Tennessee or anywhere else. And so basically, it has to sit in place, and it is forced to stay there. Air at this time of the year that's coming from the north is cold air. I'm talking about chilly.
Yeah.
Frigid. And so it's that cold air that's trying to move in from the north and the east, and it says, I can't cross the mountains, so I'm going to have to hold my position right here. So our temperatures, they don't stand a chance.
So it basically tries to wedge itself in here, and I guess
it wedges itself
hence
in.
the name.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I know you're busy. I'll let you get back to the Storm Center. We'll be following Jonathan David all day for the latest on this weekend. Jonathan, thanks so much. All right, let's talk about some information we're getting from Georgia Power right now, because that's one of the big stories here is the power, all right? And who's going to lose power and who's not. If you're one of those who's not going to lose power, good for you. But a lot of people just might. Georgia Power is saying that this winter storm may cause a 2 to 3 day power outage or longer for those who lose power. They're warning that the winter storm could cause ice to down trees. Crews already being mobilized to the northern regions, that northeast region that Jonathan and I just talked about, and to keep themselves safe, all right? Georgia Power is going to put some studs on their tires and some snow chains to navigate these roadways to be able to get the lights back on. These are our heroes in the wake of events like this, whether it's stormy weather or winter weather. These are the people that get our lights back on. But one thing I learned from covering hurricanes down in South Florida earlier in my career is that they won't get anywhere near power lines until it is absolutely safe. All right. And in the case of storms, tropical storms, that means until the wind dies down. And in case of freezing weather like this, it means until they're safe on the roadways. The last thing you want is a guy up on the pole and some slippery conditions to dislodge the ladder or whatever. So if they're safe, they're going to get up and try to turn the lights back on. So what they're doing is they're hitting hospitals, medical centers first, big infrastructure like that. But you know, you're encouraged to take precautions if the lights go out to stay warm. And I've been thinking to myself, like, what does that mean? How am I supposed to stay warm if my lights go out? Well, if you have a gas fireplace, that could be an option. Handle with care. Your gas stove to boil water and to cook things, you know, and cuddle, if you will. If you're flying this weekend and your trip gets canceled or significantly delayed, you're entitled to a refund regardless of a reason, but only if you choose not to travel or accept travel credits, vouchers, or other forms of compensation being offered by the airlines. If you do want to rebook your flight, do it as soon as that you learn that your flight is delayed or canceled. Speed is your friend here before everybody else piles onto the same flight that you do. Act quickly and in advance. The government now has laws and protections in place for travelers to protect you during situations just like this. And with more than 150 million people under a winter storm watch or warning, you may want to be proactive. Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport is a gateway to the world. We are the world's busiest airport. So if you're originating from here, you're going to be contending with people who are using us as a hub to get through here and to go where they need to be. So contact your airline, take those proactive steps, and make time your friend in this situation. People across the United States gearing up for the Arctic blast. Keeping warm will be the key, but how warm could you put yourself and not be at risk for carbon monoxide poisoning? It's something that we want to talk about. The CDC says that the odorless and colorless gas kills hundreds of people every single year. We're told that CO poisonings happen more frequently in the winter months. Symptoms include headaches, nausea, and dizziness, and that's why it's critical to have a carbon monoxide alarm in your home. Also important, never use generators indoors, and warming your car inside the garage can also harm you and your family. So these are the warnings that we put out there in situations like this just think twice before you use stuff indoors, especially generators, and certainly don't turn on your car in the garage. Hopefully you have a CO2 monitor inside your house to monitor the levels so that you can stay safe. All right, joined now by Eric Perry. Eric, the city of Atlanta also among those getting ready for the storm. The mayor was out there today talking. Tell us what he had to say and some of the preps the city is taking in advance of the freezing weather.
Yeah, he said that they have been working around the clock, he and his team, just going over different incidents and things like that. He says they're ready for whatever might come their way. We just don't know what exactly we're going to see here, but he also wants you at home to make sure that you're ready as well. I actually saw one of the comments that's over there that came up. Someone asked, was 1973 the last time that we saw this much ice? The mayor and also GEMA officials earlier today said that it was 2014 was the last time we had a major ice warning.
I think the Super Bowl.
This.
It was like a Super Bowl weekend or something. I was here.
Yeah.
And I remember the layer of ice over the trees that like crippled the city.
So that was the last time. So they're trying to learn from that and really ask people to stay off of the roadways. Take a listen to some of our conversation. The mayor was really, he wanted to make sure that he got out there and spread the word of what the city is doing about their brine trucks and the salting that took place.
The last 2 days, all of government has been coordinating. We've been on calls. We've been doing tabletop exercises about incidents that could happen, getting prepared, everything from our 21 salt spreaders and 22 brine trucks. So on the roads and sidewalks, we are prepared. Make sure you know when to call 911 and when to call 311. 911 is for emergencies, medical, fire, or violent crime, etc. 311 is for non-emergency, such as, a tree that's fallen or some limbs in the roadway, etc. We will get to all of that in due time.
I think that last part is so important about the difference between calling 911 and calling 311. Again, the 911 is for medical emergencies, fires, violent crimes, that type of thing. 311 is for the trees being down, power lines down, unless it's, of course, causing some sort of emergency. Also, during this time, we want to make sure that you are taking care of the most vulnerable. We're talking about senior citizens, those unhoused. We know that there will be 3 warming centers in the city. They have a 4th one on standby just in case. But again, the mayor wants you at home not to panic by, not to worry or anything like that, but just to make sure that you have everything that you need. That's your food, your water, your medicines, just in case your battery's charged, just in case you have ice. Tom, I remember when I was growing up, it wasn't a major ice storm.
Where was that?
Here in Atlanta.
All right.
It was some sort of an ice storm that we had, and it knocked out power to my neighborhood, so we had to go to a family member's house. But I remember the thick ice there. I won't say when it was, but many years ago here.
Many years
ago, many moons
You're
ago.
but a child.
It's the serums at night.
Was it the 2016?
It was. No, I'm not that young. No, it was like the late 90s when we had to go to a family member's house because of that ice that happened here, and it was just really slick. So, us Georgians growing up here, we don't really deal with this all the time. So you want to make sure that you're safe out there, and that's what the mayor wants to as well.
Here's the thing. We're kind of in this weird middle ground in terms of the weather. It's not Boston where it's going to snow. There's going to be snow on the ground through the winter. All right. And that they are equipped to get that stuff off the road. We're in this weird climate here where it's not that bitter cold, but it's not that warm. And so we get ice storms like this that creep up and have the habit of paralyzing our city.
Yeah, I have a friend in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is -21 this morning.
Wow.
There, so
they're like, "What are you complaining about?"
What are you complaining about? And I was like, "Well, we're just not used to it here." So again, the mayor just wants to make sure that you are safe, and they're working around the clock, and they're going to start brining the roads tonight, starting at midnight. GDOT will.
All right. Well, speaking of GDOT, Eric, as you know, Governor Kemp declared a state of emergency in advance of the storm. Today, the Georgia Emergency Management Homeland Security Agency Director Josh Lamb spoke to us about the preparations that they are making.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh Lamb, and I'm the Director of GEMA Homeland Security. Today, I'm joined by Will Langston, who's our state meteorologist. Earlier, we briefed Governor Kemp, who's been leading our response over the past week. We've been in constant communication and will continue to do so through the entirety of this event. As a recap of information that was put out yesterday, Governor Kemp issued a state of emergency order for all 159 counties, which will remain in effect through January 29th. The state of emergency makes all state resources available for local governments and allows for more efficient deployment. The State Operations Center will activate at Level 1, full activation tomorrow at 7 a.m., and will operate 24/7 until winter weather has passed. A major winter storm is expected to bring significant impacts to North Georgia and Metro Atlanta this weekend. The timing for onset of winter weather is expected to begin Saturday afternoon at the earliest. The primary precipitation type is still expected to be freezing rain with ice accumulations of 1/4 to 1 inch, generally along and north of the I-20 corridor. An ice storm warning has been issued for most of North Georgia. Confidence is high for major and prolonged impacts in these counties. Several counties north and east of Macon remain under a winter storm watch. And so, let me go back. Several counties north and east of Macon and southwest of Atlanta remain under a winter storm watch. Significant ice accumulation is possible in the watch and warning counties between Saturday afternoon and Sunday night. Temperatures will drop below freezing Sunday evening and will remain very cold all the way through Tuesday. Prolonged freezing temperatures will cause roads to refreeze. Extreme cold watches and warnings will be possible on Monday night and Tuesday morning. Burst pipes will be possible with this level of extreme cold. Dangerous travel conditions are likely in the watch and warning areas as early as Saturday afternoon and will continue to worsen throughout the day on Sunday. Hazardous road conditions could also affect the Monday morning commute. Downed trees and power lines could cause extended power outages and debris issues in the watch and warning areas through Monday afternoon. GEMA Homeland Security is coordinating with partners at all levels. That includes our state agencies and our utility partners to ensure Georgians have the resources they need before, during, and after potential winter weather impacts. Resources such as water, blankets, and MREs have been moved across the state where they can better fit the needs of those likely to be affected. We're also working with the Department of Public Health to ensure that nursing homes know who to call if they lose power. Residents should check with their local officials for information about warming centers and comfort station locations. Georgia State Parks are also opening warming stations for public use. Those locations can be found at georgiastateparks.org/alerts. Georgia DOT crews will start pre-treating interstate highways across North Georgia beginning at midnight Friday night into Saturday. Brine operations will continue around the clock, and crews will continuously monitor roadway conditions and treat as needed through the duration of the event. Georgia State troopers are prepared to respond and assist motorists, but do us all a favor and stay off the roads. The Department of Agriculture, along with DNR and the Forestry Commission, who will operate from a unified command, will have response teams standing by with ATVs, chainsaws, and tow straps.
That's Josh Lamb of the Georgia Emergency Management Department talking about state preparations in advance of the winter storm that's set to roll in here tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening into Sunday, and then perhaps again on Monday. Lamb is warning us to stay off the roads as the weather moves in. Prepare yourselves and weather the storm as safely as you can. As we continue here, we talked about a major DEA operation in our city. Our city happens to be a major hub, not only for travel, unfortunately, but also for narcotics. Our Ray Arena is going to join us live. He was at a news conference today with some very, very interesting information as we continue. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Tom Haines with you here in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom, working to keep you updated on winter weather conditions that are headed our way. We just heard from meteorologist Jonathan Stacy, and the headline that I took away from that really was the timing of all of this and when it is set to roll into our area. We're talking about kind of late afternoon tomorrow, Saturday, around 4 to 6 p.m., and then stretching all the way through Sunday morning, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., but it's not over after that. Monday, we're getting another shot of wet weather, which may reinforce what happened to us over the weekend. So our meteorologists are working hard to keep you updated on the timing of all of this and the kinds of winter weather conditions that we're going to face here in the metro Atlanta area and beyond. So stay with us here, both on Fox Local and on air on Fox 5 Atlanta. All right, shifting gears a little bit, we want to talk about the efforts on the part of the DEA, that's the Drug Enforcement Administration, to keep drugs off of our streets. Atlanta is a major city in the Southeast. It also happens to be a hub for drug traffickers. Let's get out to Ray Urena, who was at a news conference this afternoon. Ray, what did they tell you about their efforts here in our city?
Well, Tom, they tell me that they're headed in a good direction because in 2023, they said they had more than 100,000 people who died by fatal overdose. That's according to the CDC. But last year, they said that they had just under 80,000 people overdose on drugs, also according to the CDC. So they are making progress when it comes to their efforts on drugs like meth, fentanyl, cocaine. They say those are probably the biggest three drugs that come into the metro Atlanta area. I just want to share some statistics that we just got from Jay Chung, who is the special agent in charge over the DEA's Atlanta field office. He says that currently the DEA is focusing their efforts on 3 cartels that operate within the metro Atlanta area, those being the Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG cartel, which is based out of Jalisco, as well as La Nueva Familia Michoacan. Well, those 3 cartels, they say, are the big players in the Atlanta metro. They also say that a couple of years ago, 7 out of 10 pills that their lab here on site has tested positive for fatal doses of fentanyl. They say now that is down to 5 out of 10. So they are making progress to that. So from 70% of pills containing fentanyl to now just about half. And I just spoke to Special Agent Chung just a few minutes ago, and here's what they say they're focusing on when it comes to meth and fentanyl here in our area. Take a listen.
There's definitely no shortage of meth here in Atlanta. It's widely available in large quantities, and also fentanyl. Again, we're seeing a rise in fentanyl, but we're trending in the positive direction. We're trending in the positive direction because now what we're seeing is our labs have tested that. A year ago, we were testing 7 out of 10 pills that had the potential lethal dose, which is 2 milligrams. Now we are seeing that has lowered to 5 out of 10 pills. So that we are trending in the right direction.
Yeah, and just like I just mentioned and how Special Agent Chuck just mentioned, trending in the right direction. And that's kind of how the theme of today's news conference was here at the DEA's Atlanta field office. Now, they also mentioned, Special Agent Chung also mentioned that technology has changed how these drug cartels can launder their money. They say they're using a lot more online currency, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, kind of like that, because they say it's easier for them to transfer that money instantly versus, sending somebody down to the border and having them potentially stopped by drug enforcement agents, Tom. So definitely a lot of change going on and a lot of cat and mouse between the DEA and the drug cartels, but the DEA says that they feel like they're getting on top of them.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. And I'm happy to hear that officials are working to confront this problem because it is one. And at the end of the day, as you said, young people are the real victims here who encounter some of these narcotics coming from all over the place. Ray, you and I are from South Florida, where, that's another entry point for narcotics coming in from Latin America and elsewhere. But we often don't think of Atlanta as being one of those trafficking centers, but it is. And it's not only human trafficking that we worry about, but obviously from the news conference you attended here today, it's narcotics. It's a very big deal here.
It is, Tom, and that's due to just Atlanta's nature of being a transit hub, and that's dating back to the city's origins back in the 1800s when the city was originally called Terminus, and now Atlanta, when all these rail hubs were built, and now we have the world's busiest airport at Hartsfield-Jackson. So there's definitely a sort of main hub when it comes to Atlanta, and again, on top of all these distribution hubs, because when they told us in the news conference that when they get into Atlanta's a very big distribution hub. So once it gets to Atlanta, they can very quickly spread throughout the Southeast to Virginia, to North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, very quickly, whether that be on trucks, train, or any of other transportation methods.
Yeah, interesting bit of history there, Ray, where it relates to Atlanta. And, especially with all the high-profile events coming in here, like FIFA and all the convention traffic and sporting events, great effort on the part of the DEA. Ray Urena live for us after that news conference. Ray, thanks so much. High prices, sticker shock. No surprise when it comes to healthcare costs. Health insurance CEOs facing bipartisan condemnation on Capitol Hill. Top executives from the biggest health insurers got what are being characterized as bipartisan beatdowns. All right. And this is lawmakers taking them to task for the high cost of health care, something that they want these CEOs to control. Lawmakers from both parties went to the CEOs to address the high prices, a sicker nation, and what are the root causes of the soaring healthcare cost. Democrats say coverage needs to be expanded because uninsured patients pay more at the emergency room. The CEOs, though, they defended themselves in this hearing today. They fired back, noting that their operating costs have increased significantly over the past decade. But some lawmakers say that these companies just pass those costs along to consumers, and the proof is in the profits, noting that some of these CEOs make an absolute fortune, grotesque amounts of money, while people pay outrageously high costs to insure themselves and their families. Facing pressure to address the rising cost of housing, the White House is stepping up. President Trump proposing a plan which would place restrictions on large firm investors. This is something that the president talked about over at Davos, over at the meeting of economic powers over in Switzerland in his speech. It's an idea that Democrats say that they've already seen themselves working on. So it's a bipartisan effort. If you live in a neighborhood where some of these big companies come in and buy huge swaths of housing that they turn around and rent to people, it can be detrimental not only on the price of housing, but on the community itself. Somebody who spent a lot of money to live in a neighborhood certainly doesn't want a handful of transients coming in and out of their neighborhoods, whether it is short-term renters or long-term renters, because it absolutely affects the value of people's homes. And so both the administration and, it appears, Democrats are working to crack down on that and limit the ability of some of these massive corporations buying up huge swaths of housing. So we'll have to see how that sort of makes its way through Congress. As we continue here, we're going to talk about the roads once again. That's what we're going to all be focused on this weekend, the road conditions, power outages, tree limbs falling. We're going to cover all of that still to come here in the 3 p.m. streaming hour on Fox Local. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for staying informed with us here on the 3 p.m. streaming hour of Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines with you live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. It is a busy, busy Friday afternoon of news as we work to prepare you for the weather event that's to come this weekend, as we learned from meteorologist Jonathan Stacy, who was with us not too long ago and gave us a really comprehensive look at exactly what is going to happen and how this weather system is going to manifest and unfold sort of late Saturday afternoon into early Sunday morning, and then another hit on Monday. What are the conditions going to be? We've seen Georgia emergency management officials talking about the roadways and how to prepare. Let's get out to our Chris Rosenthal to talk more about the Georgia Department of Transportation's news conference today that was held, and what officials, Chris, are saying about their ability to prepare the roads when we're expected to get a lot of freezing rain that may wash a lot of that stuff right off.
Yeah, they say they're prepared. You know, I am at one of the GDOT facilities here in Forest Park, one of the brine facilities, where they have about a dozen trucks just like these behind me that they are getting ready to take out on the road starting later tonight to brine the roads and really get them ready, get them prepped for the, ahead of time in anticipation of that freezing rain, so that hopefully that rain does not become ice. And I'm joined here by Natalie Dale with GDOT. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for being here. This is so important that we're having these conversations now, so people are, I guess, mentally prepared to not be on the roads.
Absolutely. I mean, we want people. I mean, the big message, big takeaway: don't stay off the roads.
Absolutely.
Stay off the roads. But there are some people that may need to be on the roads, first responders, other people that need to be out there. These trucks are going to keep the roads safe. Talk to me a little about what they do and what this brine does.
Right, so brine is just a saltwater solution that is going to, a pre-treatment, we're going to get that down on the road, and what it's going to do is it's going to lower the temperature at which ice will bind and set to the roadway. So, we learned when we were little 32 is freezing. Well, this is going to take that down. So into the 20s that we get, it stays in a slush so we can clear that off the road. Of course, when we're talking widespread ice storm throughout metro North Georgia, kind of all bets are off really when you're considering what we have to deal with. So even in best case scenarios, brine can lose efficacy. You'll see up here we've got one of our giant salt barns. This feeds our brine machine that makes brine. So we will constantly be refilling these guys, getting them back out on the road, putting more layers of brine down. We'll start to get different materials like that granular salt rock where we need it. But again, we're going to be out on the roads. Don't take that as an invitation to come see what we're doing. We've got it. We've got the equipment. We've got the materials. We've got the people. They need the space and time to work. This is definitely a hunker down situation.
And it's about 3,000 miles or so roughly of roads here in Metro Atlanta you guys are going to be treating. Talk to me about the strategy. You can't hit every road. What's the priority here?
So right now we're looking to treat almost 17,000 lane miles in the affected counties. Think about how long it takes you to drive 1 mile going probably over the speed limit. So when you talk about 3,000 in metro, 17,000 statewide, these tankers have to go about 45 miles per hour to get ultimate saturation. It takes us time. It takes us time to get all of those lanes done. So we start with all major interstates so we can keep those lanes open for emergency personnel, doctors, ambulances, power crews that are going to be coming through. That's our first priority. When that is finished, then we can move to those secondary routes, which are the larger state routes, which get closer to your home. But we're still not doing your neighborhood streets, your driveway, city, county roads. Those are taken care of by different DOTs like Cobb DOT or Atlanta. But again, a lot of lane miles for everyone to get treated and cleared during the storm.
Yeah, and that's important to know that these are really for those bigger roads, like Natalie was saying. It's not your neighborhood roads. I was in DeKalb earlier, and they were saying, they're not treating your neighborhoods. They're treating those main roads. So just getting to those treated roads can be a challenge for sure.
So we've got these big tankers, and those do our big systems, interstate lanes, state routes. But we also filling up here at the the MAU in Forest Park in our brine facility, if you could see down there, are smaller tankers. So if you see one of those smaller tankers, it's about half the size of one of these tanks. If you see one of those, that's not for lack of having equipment. What those do is it allows us to be more nimble in our treatment. Things like interchanges where you have to get in and around some tight curves, things like hospital systems, emergency areas. That's what those smaller tankers do, is they help us to treat in some, the cracks and crevices to really get in there. So we've got the big tankers that do big lanes. Stay out of their way. You don't want the spray on your car. You don't want to get in their way. And then if you see one of these tankers, they're doing smaller routes to make sure that we can keep things like overpasses, emergency areas clear. So two different types of brine tankers we're working with here.
And you'll be out starting at midnight, huh?
Starting at midnight and then round the clock until we're out of this. So there isn't a time we won't be out on the road starting at midnight tonight until we have the all clear for all lanes, having recovered from the storm system.
Yeah, and I'm sure you guys are watching the forecast just like the rest of us to see.
Yeah,
so
we're hoping for Monday, but we want people to mentally prepare. It may be into Tuesday. Even working our hardest and working our best, an ice storm scenario is very difficult to deal with.
Absolutely. Natalie, thanks for joining us. And again, the big takeaway, the big message, and you hear us say it over and over again, just stay off the roads unless you absolutely have to be out there. Just stay off of them.
I understand one of the challenges, Chris, in all this, and something we talked about early on in this story. Chief Meteorologist David Chanley and I actually had a conversation during one of the commercial breaks on the 5 o'clock news, is the ability to sort of treat roads, then the rain comes, washes off what they've done. So is that sort of part of the strategy with Georgia Department of Transportation, and how are they going to confront the rain that's going to hit after they may have already treated the roadways?
Yeah, so Natalie, Anchor Tom, he was asking about, once it does rain and rain's on the road, maybe it's starting to ice up. What's the strategy then?
So that's why we get that brine down ahead of the storm. It's going to lower that freeze point. We'll keep brine routes going, but yes, rain becomes problematic when it comes in because it can dilute the brine, the efficacy can go down. That's why we want to get as many coats as we can. Then we transition as it gets slushy, as it gets icier, we transition into those harder materials like rock salt, granular salt that can break up ice. But at that point, we're playing a waiting game on temperatures, getting it off, drying patterns, wind, things like that. But one thing we haven't really talked about, and which you bring up a great point, is as those roads start to set up with ice, we also have trees and power lines that are setting up with ice. So it's not necessarily just the roads that we're talking about in an ice storm situation. You've got power lines that can come down and trees that can come down. So our crews are out there doing what they can with the materials we have to get it off the road. But if we have things coming down onto the road, that's another thing that we're going to have to deal with, which is clearing trees, clearing power lines. So again, a lot that salt can do to a certain point when we get layers of ice coming down.
Yeah, it's a really good point about the obstacles there on the road for sure.
And really interesting how that actually works. I didn't know that the stuff that they put down, the brine that they put down, actually lowers the temperature on the roadways so that it kind of turns to that slush, which is more grounding, if you will, on a tire than a slick sheet of ice. So interesting stuff there to hear how state officials are preparing our roads and just how much work they have ahead of them in these next couple of days. Chris Rosenthal with Natalie Dale there, the Georgia Department of Transportation. Chris, Natalie, guys, thanks. When we come back, Natalie mentioned trees. That's going to be the headliner this weekend. The ability of the trees to handle the weight of the ice before branches possibly fall, not only creating hazards in the roadway, but possibly knocking down power lines. Our Eli Jordan will join us next with an arborist to talk about trees and all this when we continue. Welcome back. Thanks so much for watching the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm Tom Haines with you live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom, covering everything you need to know about our winter weather this weekend. We've covered a ton of ground here, learning how the state is going to pre-treat some of the roads in advance of the freezing rain that's about to fall. Really this is the timing, late Saturday into early Sunday morning, with yet another round coming in on Monday. So keep tabs here on Fox Local and, of course, on Fox 5. We're going to be all over this all weekend long. Frankly, a lot of the anchors are going to camp out here this weekend at the station. Our reporters are fanned out all over the metro Atlanta area and beyond to talk about the conditions as they begin to unfold. Our team of meteorologists, not too far away from me right now, working every angle of this forecast. Meteorologist Jonathan Stacy was on the phone with the National Weather Service just a little bit earlier, getting the latest on the timing of all this. So we have some really, really crucial information for you as events unfold here. One of the things we're going to be talking a lot about over the next 48 to 72 hours are the trees in our area. Remember, we are the city of trees here. But what does that mean? A lot of them can fall. The branches can fall. Old trees can come down with the weight of the ice that may freeze on some of these branches. What happens then? If they fall on a power line, then the power in your area may go out. It may not go out. Or if they fall on the roadway, that could create a hazard too. And combined with the ice, it's just downright dangerous. So what role are trees going to play in all of this? Our Eli Jordan is with an arborist to help us explain.
Hey, that's right. I'm out here at Pinckneyville Park, and we're talking about trees, and I'm with arborist Josh Murata. He is the owner of Atlanta Arbor. And Josh, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, sir.
And tell me, how treacherous is ice for trees?
So ice is one of the most destructive things that can happen to trees. It puts a load on them that trees aren't used to. It's downward force, and it's a constant force, unlike wind that passes through and may, shear off limbs in a high windstorm. But ice is going to be there, stay, and keep loading it from a way that trees are just not accustomed to being, supporting that kind of volume.
How concerned are you about tomorrow's or this weekend's weather?
If we get what they're expecting, pretty concerned. I mean, it's going to be bad. A half inch of ice can add hundreds of pounds for every limb that it settles on. So if we get half inch to an inch of ice on these trees, then we're going to see a lot of stuff fail, especially being predominantly, evergreen, having a lot of loblolly pines. They don't hold up well to the ice.
So prevention is the biggest key to keep ice from damaging your trees and your home with, falling trees, all that. What can people do now, though? It's a little late for prevention, isn't it?
Yeah. Kind of missed the mark on the prevention part of it, but being aware of your surroundings. So when you start to see branches bowing over or trees bowing over, making sure that you stay clear of them, keep cars parked, away from trees. If you start to see things bowing over around the house, get to an area of your house that's safe, somewhere where you're, not susceptible to something failing and coming through the roof of the house.
And also, too, though, I mean, we have the ice. The ice will stop.
Yep.
And then we're going to have wind after that.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess when the ice stops and the ice melts, the danger is not gone, is it?
No. So that's the biggest misconception about ice. The ice does the damage, and a lot of times it won't make the failure. Once the ice melts and the trees, everything shed off of them, those cracks start becoming apparent, and then the trees will fail afterwards. So we get a lot more failures the couple days after the ice storm. So you're not out of the woods just because the ice storm's done and the ice is gone.
And trees can fall just without any kind of warning.
No provocation whatsoever, exactly. So the ice just kind of amplifies, letting us know or helping you find out what trees were more likely or did have issues prior to.
The hard way.
Yeah, exactly. You're finding out the hard way. So having an arborist out to your property, checking your trees, especially after the storm, because you could have cracks in your bifurcations, you could have splits in the trees, you could have limbs that are cracked and potentially could fail later on. So having all of that checked and dealt with after this would be a good note, period.
After the storm, if I have a lot of trees around my house, get an arborist out there ASAP.
Yeah, have an arborist come out and check your trees.
Awesome.
So,
well, Josh Murata, thank you very much, owner of Atlanta Arbor. And he's saying, hey, watch out for your trees, beware. Prevention is the best bet. But we're a little bit past that now, so just be very aware of what all is around and stay safe this weekend. Back to you guys.
Yeah, great advice, Eli. Thanks so much. And Joshua Marota, the Atlanta arborist who you spoke to. Good advice. Want to head out to the airport. It's going to be a nightmare out there, too. Hopefully you can get a hold of your travel situation if you are traveling, make some arrangements to reschedule or get refunded, something we talked about earlier here in the 3 p.m. streaming hour. Want to listen to airport officials and how they're preparing for the storm.
We are ensuring that we have all of our equipment topped off. All of our equipment is checked out and ready to go. All the materials that we need for treating runways, taxiways, and the roads are in stock and topped off. And then practicing with the equipment to make sure that the teams are proficient in how they will operate the equipment this year.
What is some of the equipment that we're looking at behind us here?
So we have snow brooms, we have plows, and we have new equipment that we bought on this year that will enhance our abilities to clean runways and taxiways quicker. It's called multifunctional equipment.
How much did you guys spend on this new equipment?
We spent over $3 million to bring this equipment in to help us enhance our operations.
Why is it so important? Obviously, last year when we had that snow event come through, there was an emergency on one of the planes which shut down one of the runways, and then the other runway became impassable for a period of time for takeoffs. Why is it so important to be prepared and have this new equipment to make sure something like that doesn't happen?
Because we don't want to experience that again. We want to be better than we were last year in our ability to keep our runways and taxiways open to keep aircraft moving around the country. And this is a centralized focus for how we do that. We ensure that our crews are ready with this equipment, and this equipment enhances our ability to clean runways faster and also provide more coverage. So we're ready to get those.
All right, Atlanta airport officials telling us how they are prepared to treat the runways. They got some new equipment out there in advance of the big ice storm that is headed our way late tomorrow afternoon. That's going to do it for us here for the 3 p.m. streaming hour on Fox Local. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. Don't go anywhere. We're all over this storm. The news continues live right here, right now, so don't go away.